Hello, Gigaschatten here with a 20-minute race guide for the lizards. Alright, so let's start a quick view on the features. We will also have a look more in detail on the Excel sheet I have prepared. But for now, the lizards are race number 2. These are the Gorn from Star Trek, a reptile race, and as features they have lizard crew bonus, which means all their ships can take up to 150% damage before blowing up. Then they are the strongest ground combat race in the whole game. So they have, when attacking, 30 times ground combat ratio, means one lizard guy, one of these, will take out 30 enemy fighters. And in defense, when they are being attacked, they also fight at a ratio of 15:1, right? Then they have a his ability, we will talk about that, 200% mining, low-key immunity, they can lay large minefields, and clone ships, right? So let's have a look at their ship list. It's a torpedo race, so it is not a carrier race, and the ship list is, I would say, mid-size. And however, they have some special abilities, and we will now go over the ships where I would say I would recommend building those. But again, just always take these with a grain of salt. These are my personal views. Your views might differ. Also, the very, unique best players, they will maybe think differently, but these are just my advices. Right, so let's have a look. Neutronic fuel carrier, not every race has them. What does this ship do? It is Tech 3, has like the lowest mass, I think, of all ships in the game, and there is a relationship between the mass and the fuel consumption of a ship, and the crew is 2, so the less the mass is, the less fuel you consume. Cargo space of 2, I think this is also the ship with the smallest cargo space. However, I'm not sure. We would need to double check that. And it has a gigantic fuel space, as you can see, 900. It has 2 engines. Mineral wise, the ship and also mega credits doesn't cost anything. And as its name says, the purpose of this ship is to just transfer fuel. So, and since it has such a low mass, it almost consumes nothing. And I think it's like this, that if you have only 1 kiloton, or I don't think 0 do work anymore, but with 1 kiloton, this ship can fly endlessly because it will not consume 1 kiloton of fuel. With the engines, however, it is also possible, because it has 2 engines, and in case you don't know, every ship with 2 engines automatically has a tractor beam built in, so this ship can tow other ships. So if you need fuel or to tow ships and you have excess, you can build this ship. Next one, medium deep space fighter. Nothing more to be said. You should have these as a small mid-range cargo transporter everywhere. Has just 1 engine, but will you can use it to either transfer 200 minerals or supplies from A to B, but mainly also for money transfers. You will need this as a lizard because you will have tons of money. Then the next one, we have a reptile class destroyer. I just wanted to show you this ship, so let's have a look also here. Reptile class destroyer. I don't think this ship has a cloaking device, or does it? Even if so, it has just 2 engines, and for beam weapons, I would not recommend building this ship. It is cheap, and I think it has a cloaking device. However, cargo is small, fuel is small. You build this on, basis where you don't have the minerals or such, then okay, but normally don't build these. Instead, Tech level 4, you already know this if you've watched the Solar Federation. This is a terraform ship, and the lizards have stolen this design from the Federation, and they only have this one, not the Bohemian, which can increase the temperature on planets, but this is the ship which can lower planet's temperature by 1. Ridiculously low minerals and mega credits counts. It has 2 beam weapons, 2 engines, can tow, but with the beam weapons you can use it to hiss. In general, you can use any beam weapon, any ship with beam weapons to hiss a planet, which will in return, you can set the tax rates for each hissing ship 5 up without the population or natives revolting. Okay, so build lots of these arrows, especially in the early phase. It is not unseen that you have like 10 hissing arrows over a, let's say, insectoid participatory planet, and that planet produces you 4, 5, 6,000 mega credits a turn just because you have these ships in orbit permanently hissing. So build lots of these. And now comes your kind of power horse of your fleet. This is an excellent ship. It is the Lizard class cruiser, also short is LCC. Tech 4, mass over 100, can sustain 1 mine hit. Large crew, so it is not easy to capture. It has a tremendously large cargo space. For a tech level 4 ship, which, and now comes the nicest part, which can cloak, you have a tremendously large cargo. Fill this up with 290 clans, and with a 30-to-1 combat ratio, 300 times 10 is 3000 times 3, so you have 30. It's like it is as if you're dropping 9,000 colonists on an empty enemy planet, right? And then you take over these planets just by dropping clans from these cloaked little thingies. On top, nice fuel. It is not the best, so 400 or 500 would be better, but still good. 2 engines, can tow, 4 beam weapons and 3 launchers, so this thing can also fight enemy ships and also planets. Mineral wise, it's also very nice because it is cheap in mega credits and it doesn't use the hull itself many molly, okay? Because as you know, transwarp engines, they cost like 35 molly each. And if you have like 2 like this, you always need at least a 17 molybdenum for those, and then you get some for the torpedoes and beams also on top. So this ship will always cost you around about 100, 150 kind of molybdenum, okay? Build a lot of these, yeah? They're also excellent for trading and nice sturdy ship. Next one, large deep space freighters. Again, in my opinion, best transporter in the game because you have such a huge cargo space, such a huge fuel, and you can tow. Yeah, you can also tow your low-level tech ships, whatever. I will not repeat that always, but in the hands of a Lizard, this ship is actually stronger than in other races, except for the Rebels and for the Klingons. We will come to them, or Hordes of Fury, how they are called. Reason is, yes, you don't have planet immunity, so if you just fly with a large deep space freighter over an enemy planet, the planet, if it is set to attack or nuke, will attack the ship and then destroy it. However, if you arrive at a planet, and it doesn't matter if there's a star base, if there are enemy ships, but if you arrive with 0 neutronium, means fuelless on the planet, you need to really calculate that correctly and then jettison fuel. So you arrive without damage on the enemy planet, and you have a cloaker sitting on that planet of your race as well, like an LCC, a reptile class destroyer, or any other cloaker. What you can then do is transfer 1 kiloton of fuel to this ship and then drop 1,200 clans onto the enemy, with each fighting 30-to-1. Okay, so that is gigantic. Okay, so 36,000 clans, you can take over almost any enemy planet. So bear that in mind. Awesome. And also, since they dig out minerals fast, the usual thing what you do is you just transport all the minerals from one planet to your bases and then build more and more ships. But late game, they also, as I said, have a purpose. You transport clans to the front. Okay, So use a lot of these if you can. Next one, mixed feelings about this. This is the Saurian class light cruiser. The name indicates it. It's a light ship, but tech level 7. Also has a cloaking device. Mass over 100, but it has like 150 cargo, 260 fuel, only 4 beam weapons, 2 launchers. And it is cheap, yes, but if you compare this ship with the Lizard class cruiser, I'm sorry. I mean, look at this. You have like 10 less uranium, 20 less titanium, 7 less moly, but less armament, less cargo, less fuel. What is this? So for me, don't build this tech level 7 ship. I don't even understand why it exists. Don't build it. Instead, take the tech 4 and you get more buck for your money. Okay? Don't build these. Next one, Loki's. Tech level 8. Also, again, the Gorn. Sneaky spies stole the plans from the Federation. Built lots of these. Okay? Reason for that is you have not too many, but some. Reason is this ship has a tachyon device and it will decloak enemy cloaked ships within 10 light years. There are exceptions. The birds are immune, you know, other lizards are immune, but Klingons are not, privateers are not, and also other races which are acquired cloaking ships which don't have special, immunity. You can always decloak enemy ships. So it depends. If you see all your neighbors don't have cloakers, yeah, I would then maybe build just 1 or 2, because in the late game you can encounter cloakers anyway, but then you don't need that many. However, if you have privateers or anyone else, I would say always good to have 6 to 8 of these little buddies, because again, look at this, mineral wise, these ships almost cost nothing. Really great. The drawback is they have small cargo, small fuel, so they are per se not a kind of fighting ship. But, so they're bad in taking out planets because they have only 2 beam weapons, but on its own, also mass slightly above 100, it can fight fairly well, so build some of these. Next, these are now, as you can see already, let me jump back here to tech level 7. You don't have a very good medium-sized warship. Now, what is a medium-sized warship? It's a ship which can maybe damage enemy capital ships or is able to take out planets easily on its own. So yeah, the LCC can do that with clans. However, for some planet, it can't fight them directly, and this one will lose also. But for example, a Resolute from the Birdman, this is a mid-sized ship, or take the Emerald of the Crystals, they can easily take out also, enemy planets, and are in general have a very good armament. The Lizards don't have that. However, since they have so much money, they can afford to get to tech level 9 and 10 very early. And this is now very unique because unlike the Klingons or the Birdmen or other cloakers, they have a good carrier here actually, which is the Madonzilla class carrier. Let's have a look. Tech level 9, mass 331. A lot of crew. Cargo, quite good. Fuel, abysmal, but it's fine. But now comes a fun fact. It has only 2 engines. You don't need more. 4 beams, 5 fighters. Mineral-wise, it is also okay. And with 2 engines, which cost 300 if you take transwarps, this ship, and then you put X-rays, this ship costs you just 1000 mega credits. And with the 70 molybdenum, you will end up with 160 X-rays on it, and that's it. Then you have a very nice additional fighting combo ship. So this will not normally fight on its own, but in combination with your Tech 10 ship, which is the next one. So build lots of Madonzillas, but also build, let's jump to here. No, here it is, the T-Rex class battleship. This is tech level 10, mass 421, good crew. Cargo is okay-ish, but again, I mean, you can build 63 torpedoes in a turn, which is great. It has a large fuel tank, or not very large, but fairly large. And again, the huge advantage is this tech level 10 ship has only 2 engines. Yeah, 10 beam weapons, excellent for sweeping, but only 5 launchers. Okay. Mineral wise, it is very rightly versed, right? So also putting, you know, molybdenum, 2 engines, 70 on it. It is 170, 10 with torpedoes. You will see that in an Excel sheet. This is your main force, and you will have lots of T-Rexes. So really, if you late game enters and you have 30 of these, and then also 10 to 15 of the meadows, that's how your fleet should consist of, and then also with LCCs. Okay, then we have skipped some ships, which are neutronic refinery ships. I would say you will always need these, at least 1 or 2. With Lizard, maybe less, because they dig out so much fuel, but at some point of time, you also need to move around. It might be that you don't need it, but normally 1 is enough. Then you have the Super Transport Freighter. Here, same thing. I still need to test this with the fuel efficiency, but again, with Lizard clans on it, 2600, arriving fuelless on an enemy planet, and then dropping it, enormous. Last but not least, I think we forgot the Merlin. Yes, there it is. This is the alchemy ship. And yeah, normally again, you don't rely too much on it because you have like 200% mining rate, which gives you a total advantage over others by digging out minerals fast. However, also late game, it can happen that you run out and then you need to convert supplies, and then you will need the Merlin. All right. That's for the ship list. Let's speed up a little bit. Again, what are the pros and cons? You have lots of money. Every HISS and every beam weapon ship can do that. Will generate, you can overtax the colonists and the native taxes by -5 for each ship, which means you will get more money out of the planets than anyone else. Federation is almost very near. But since your ships can stack, actually, you are the race with the most money in the game. Secondly, you are the race with the most minerals in the game, because 2 times mining rate. Combine that with a reptile reptile natives, and then you have a 4 times mining rate. From the power curves, this is something I've introduced newly here, you will see that early to mid power curve, normally how the game should go, if played correctly, you are the strongest player in the game at the beginning, period. Maybe besides the privateers, but you are the strongest. You can lay large minefields, can lay many and large minefields. You have a ground combat rating, as I said, enormously. You have cloaking ships. All your ships have 100% damage because they're sturdy. Loki immunity, you can clone enemy ships. You have a temperature ship, an Eros, which cools. And as I said, strongest race in the beginning if played correctly. And also, bear this in mind, if you get the hands on an enemy ship plan by trading or capturing, and this is for example a carrier, then the ship gains automatically the 150% damage bonus. So besides the Federation, if they clone carriers with their fed crew, they get 3 more fighter bays. You, on the other hand, get 150% damage sustainability. Also, you can offer your cloakers for trading and then maybe get the one or other, maybe even carrier, who knows. Cons. Your Tech 10 ships are the weakest of all. So even a Klingon one is in my opinion stronger, but maybe they're fairly the same, combat power, and they fall off late game if you don't have proper logistics and clans in place. So this is not the typical, I have like 100 ships and I march through the enemy territory, because in most games you should reach, I would say, you should, number 1, have the most ships of all races, and then maybe also reach 80 to 100, and your fleet will consist hugely and largely on the Tech 9 and 10, Madamzillas and T-Rexes. However, you can't just play like a carrier race. In heads-up fights, you will lose. Okay. Also con, they don't have a real mid-size ship, but the LCC is trying to compensate that. This Nova here is wrong. We take that off. That was from the other, from the Federation guide. They need to buy fighters, and they don't have bioscanners. But this con is a little con because you have so much money, you can afford it, but still you're not very good in generating fighters for the Madonzillas, but you will need them later. Then let's jump to what ships you would like to want, and not ships the Federation want, but ships the Lizard wants. Again, Firecloud class cruisers, carriers, meteors. You don't need, okay, this is even wrong. I am sorry, I am on the wrong one. This is 01 Federation. Lizard, again. Ships the Lizard ones. Again, Fireclouds, carriers, meteors, kobolds, and hypes. That's always good. Ships the Lizard can offer to other races. These are LCCs, Eros, you know, the climate ship, and any other cloaker you have. So if you say, okay, I don't want to give that guy an LCC, but I can offer him a Saurian light class cruiser. It's not as strong as the LCC, or, you know, the reptile, yeah, then do so. And you can offer services which are hissing on enemy planets, which will yield your ally, or the other one where you trade some money. Then there's something I've added here also. Let's have a look at the game progression. Early, what you should do. Now, pay attention, this is important. You get so much money and you mine so fast. What you should do is, you should be the first race in turn 3 or 4 to build a fast second base, and then also you should be the race with the most star bases, right? Anytime you can afford, you need to balance this. Besides, do I need the money to build an LCC, to build, you know, nicer ships, or can I squeeze in another star base, produce more Eros and or other ships from this planet with beam weapons which hiss the planet, and gain more money and more minerals? You see where I'm heading to. Yeah, so again, please play it correctly. You need to expand and colonize as fast as possible as Lizard, but also build bases as fast as possible. What you then do is you set Eros or whatever beam weapon ships you have to hiss, produce more money, and with the 2x mining rate you build more bases, and repeat. Then you also expand with LDSFs and LCCs, and you can pick a neighbor and attack with LCCs cloaked enemy planets and put pressure on. And again, STFF, the Super Transport Fighter, I think you should be able to produce 1 or 2 early, because you have such a high mining rate, it will compensate the uranium. However, since that ship needs 4 engines, and you would build them with Transwarp, I guess, you will fairly fast run out of molly on your homeworld. So yeah, I marked it for early. This is a thing for discussion, not sure. Mid-game, as I said, more bases. You should have most bases in the game. You should have more LCCs, more early T-Rex, more of everything. Okay, so mid-game you start early T-Rex and Madonzillas, and if you can, please build them at least with Mark 7 torpedoes, the T-Rex, or Mark 8, because you need the firepower on this ship. Early ones you can also have sacrificial, you know, with Warp 6, Warp 4, Warp 1 even, X-rays, but put at least, you know, Mark 4, Mark 5, 6, 7, 8 upwards torpedoes on this ship. Then you start also building Merlins and neutron refinery ships, but in my opinion, you don't need that many. But again, who am I? Watch the best players and see what they do. And late game, what you should have is mainly LCCs, T-Rex, Madonzillas. Sure, you have the LDSFs and all the other ships. You will have 20 Eras, that's for sure, or 10, whatever. but also maybe carriers from other races. But these two, T-Rex and Mado, they are your fighting races. Then, how do you play them? It's not straightforward. You don't, as I said before, just fly into enemy territory and crush. You can do that if you have superior ship count and your neighbor, let's say you have 100 and your neighbor has 30 or 40 in total, and of those 40, maybe 10 are, freighters, and not all of these, maybe 30 ships are carriers, maybe 10 of them, and they're maybe not totally on the front, but you can afford to send 10 T-Rex, 10 Mados and invade them. Yes, you can do that. But it's a mixture of sweeping, dropping, attacking. You will see that in one of the gameplay videos. Preferred natives, thanks to his, you will always get enough money. And what you want is argypsodial planets. Because with that, you can build early transwarp ships, but also it's not really necessary. Because with the money you have, you can also build light ones like Eros, Warp 6, Warp 7, maybe Warp 4, 5. Overdrive the engine, fly to other planets, and his. Okay? Then in my opinion, humanoid, bovinoid as usual, but in general, natives with high governments. Reason is, it's not that important if they are, siliconoid or if they are avians, whatever. But if they have a high government type, you squeeze out more money. So place your hissers on natives with high governments. Now I have introduced also another thing where I say, how do they fare? Are they beginner friendly? I would give them 3 out of 5. For me, they are not the absolute beginner friendly because yes, with the 200% mining rate, and so on, and also the money, they're good early, but if you don't play them correctly, you will lack the firepower and logistics late. That's why I gave them 3 out of 5. Power spike early, clearly 5 of 5. Most money, most minerals, expand fastest, build most bases. Mid, still okay-ish. It just depends how you progress. But late, they tend to fall off a little bit, in my opinion. But again, if you're a very good player, that doesn't matter, right? But for me, it's like this. Also, game progression, let's also add that for the Federation. For me, Federation is also not very beginner friendly because the Nova and the Missouri, in my opinion, are shit ships and you need lots of minerals. So I gave them just 2 out of 5, just so you know. So if you want to decide, should I play Federation or Gorn, the lizards, I would say pick the Gorn in favor, if you can. If not, it's also a game of having fun, and I also want to, in one of my next games, play just the Federation, because, it's just also a little bit fun, and you can win with every race. These are just indications. Good. Now, last but not least, what else is there to say? Yeah. Let me first of all get back to the sheet here. I almost forgot. Let's have a look on how this ship fares, for example, the T-Rex against a Rush. And also, since I had the figures already against a Nova. As I said, the T-Rex, let's have a look, is a Tech 10 ship. Mass, a little bit lower than the Nova. Crew a little bit less, and cargo less, fuel less, as you can see. Also 10 beam weapons, but instead of 4 engines like for the Nova, you only have 2, but you have 5 launchers and 10 on the Nova, so that ship is clearly stronger. However, mineral wise, now let's have a look. Base, you need like 140 to 240 and so on. Also mega credits. Now look, you can build up to 3 T-Rexes. And in the same time, a Nova, you can build just 1, right? Then again, low T-Rex configuration. Again, for me, I just put X-Rays Mark IV. And you see here the figures, and just in comparison to the Nova. So almost 2.5 to 1 ratio. A mid configuration is like Disruptors, Heavy Blasters, in this case Disruptors, Mark 7. Again, just mineral wise and also mega credits wise, look, the Nova, it's a 2 to 1 ratio. And the higher you go with the beam weapons and so on, you still have a whooping difference between these two ships, which means, I mean, I could almost build 2 of these and would have twice the amount of sweeping power, right? But the Nova in general is stronger. And now let's compare the T-Rex against a Rush. So here you see it costs me less duranium, less titanium, moly, and also less mega credits. So here's the Rush again. And as you can see, these numbers are high, and these don't cater for the fact that you also need to have, like, 100 fighters on these ships, which would again increase, these figures by 300 titanium, 200 moly, and also the 500 supplies you would need to put that stuff on a Rush, right? So take that, and also here's the comparison, and this is not with the, oh yeah, these are with the Novas, I'm sorry. So T-Rex versus Novas, is it? Yes, no, it is T-Rex versus Rush, correct. So I need to update this here, sorry for that, versus mid T-Rex, and here also mid high-end T-Rex. All right, now let's have a look. How does this ship fare, the T-Rex? Let's take it with the Mark 7 and X-rays. First of all, against a Rush. And as you can see, it blows up. So you don't stand a chance. And if you click on results, then you see 20% damage on the right-hand ship, the Rush, and 0 shields. But the T-Rex is always destroyed. Now let's have a look what happens if I put Mark 8 torpedoes on it. Again, same thing, same fighting. You always shut down or kill at least 30 fighters off the ship. And if we now look at the results, you see 25%. So if I swap sides, it's also 25%. And it's the same with X-rays as well. Okay. So Mark 8 results in 5% lower shields. But now let's stick for Mark 7. Let's say you had one T-Rex that was blown up, but you have a second T-Rex there as well, and it's now fighting this Rush as well. It has shields of 0 and 20% damage. If I run the simulation again, so this is the second T-Rex attacking the Rush, and unfortunately, the T-Rex always almost loses. You see, not always, almost, but always loses. If I swap the sides, the results are the same. The Rush will end up with 64% damage. Also here, also 64%, so the sides don't matter. And you will lose a second T-Rex. Now, the third T-Rex will always kill that ship, right? Reason for that is the more damage a ship has, the more fighter base it can't use. And as you can see, it will lose, again, like 15 to 20 torpedoes, a little bit of shield scratching, but it will kill it. Okay, you would say, yeah, fine, so I can build 2 T-Rexes and it will take 3 of them and take out a Rush. Oh yeah, that is correct. However, there's a better way of doing it. So let's go for 20. The 20 is like with Mark 7 torpedoes. And now you choose something else. You press M and go for the Madoncilla class carrier. You, let's say, have 100 fighters on this ship. You have 20% damage, so we simulated that a T-Rex with Mark 7 attacked the Rush. And now, instead of a second T-Rex, you send in a Madoncilla. And now look what happens. Here's the magic. Because the shields are gone. Boom. So, a T-Rex Mado combination will take out an enemy carrier. You will lose 1 T-Rex, and the enemy will lose a huge Rush. Okay? And also, let's click on the results. And as you can see, this is not guaranteed. In 15% of the time, the Madoncilla also loses. If I swap the sides, it even loses by 38%, right? But still, I have a fairly high chance with the Mado to kill the enemy Rush. Okay? So, instead of sending 3 T-Rexes, where I know 2 of them will definitely die, With this combination, you have fairly a chance to kill such a ship and losing one ship less. All right. Now, there's also one thing I still wanted to show you. This was now against a rush. I will take the rush also in the future ones. But let's say how this will change if we have a Gorby. Gorby is the heaviest ship in the game. So let's have a look at that. This is the Death Star, the Sith can build. And yeah, almost look, damage-wise, since this is huge ship, it only gets like around 8% damage on average. If I swap sides, 8% stays. So let's swap sides back. So let's give them here 8%, the shields at 0. Let's take the Madoncilla again. Or let's take, first of all, a second T-Rex. Let's click on results. It will just go to 38% here if I swap sides to 38% as well. So let's go for 38. Now the third T-Rex is fighting. Results. It will still lose, right? The Gorby will kill the third one as well, even if I swap sides. So round about 70%. And only the fourth T-Rex will win. Okay? Okay. So let's again simulate. You have 9%. The first T-Rex softened this ship up. Again, you take a Madoncilla. Results, you will have like a 6% chance that the Mado survives. If I swap sides, you have like 3% chance that this wins. And however, the damage will be roundabout always at 40%. Swap sides, see 40, 47% maybe. So let's give this Gorby maybe 44. And now, however, if you see, left destroyed by 5%, it's still, I mean, you see the numbers, right? But you have a very high chance that the third Mado will actually win by 95%. Yeah, so I just want you to be aware that it always depends on what kind of carriers you're facing, and that the battle order with the lizards are important. All right, long talk, 37 minutes. Again, I will try to shorten them to 30 minutes, but I still hope, especially for you beginners, this helps. You need to kind of adapt your playstyle a little bit. And yeah, I still, as I said, hope these guides help you. And with that being said, Gigaschatten over and out. And the next guide we are going to cover are the Birdman. Bye-bye.